guys have built incredible product. How have you organized product development, product management in a way that allows you to build all these great products? Are they large teams? Are they small teams? Just comment on that.
Yeah, it's a good question, and we have gone through a few few iterations and few learning cycles on that as well. It's what we have learned over time is that it's the small teams innovate the best. Small teams are more customer aligned. Small teams are more outcome aligned, and they you don't need to build much process, so they don't need to slow down on it. But as you grow, right, we grew from when we grew from about 25, 30 engineering people to say 70, 80. We were like this. We just can't go with the same process we had, the same model we had, because the team is much bigger now. We have to have more structure, and we did what most companies would think about doing, which is like, okay, let's bring in kind of very seasoned head of engineering from large organization, so that we can have a more rigorous process around it, and which was great. But what we found was that we started to slow down. The innovation started to slow down because we are bringing in the processes that we were not innovating at the pace when we were much smaller. And I always look at it the reason we are out innovating the legacy companies, they have no shortage of money, but we are out innovating them because we are small, we are nimble, we are fast moving. So if we don't remain that, our primary competitive advantage goes away, right? So how do we address that? So what we ended up was with a model of we split the company into the product organization into multiple startups. So we call it startups within startup model. And our rule is a startup could be anywhere from a very early stage. If you're going into a new product, we don't need to have a large team on it. You can have 3 to 5 engineers working on it. You will work on a really early stage startup, very business aligned, very outcome aligned. That your outcome is to drive the way where we were as the whole company with our first product, which is how do you get your first few customers? How do you find the product market fit? How do you get start generating revenue? You could do the same thing for your new products. Can we do that model, right? So that's how we split up. So there are some startups which are early stage, some are which are a little bit mid stage, some are which are a bit later stage. And
is there a size amount? Is there a number of engineers you find that works for each of them, or is that independent of the startup?
Well, the primary kind of the rule of thumb is about 30, 35. That beyond that, we don't want any of these startups to have more than 30, 35 engineers. So we can retain that startup kind of model. The main thing we have found there is if you try to fit in this one process for everyone, that's when everything slows down. So for a more mature startup, you want a little bit more mature process. Your prioritization on quality versus speed versus how would you do things, how fast you want to move. The prioritization rules are a bit different. If you are going into you haven't built your alpha product, you are finding the product market fit. How you prioritize are different, how the process should be different. So you don't want one process for all. So one of the major things about this, we allow all the startups to pick their own process. That you can pick whatever process you have, whatever process you want, which is right for you. Because if we have this is the way AppDynamics engineering processes across everyone, and the process you want for that the more mature startup will kill the very early stage one. The very early stage one, the process you want there, that will kill the more mature one, right? So that's really the balance there.
Got it. So each group using its own process. Good. We talked about sales. We talked about product. Let's talk a little bit about customer success. Mm-hmm. It's another area that I believe that AppDynamics has really innovated. Mm-hmm. Can you talk about your customer success process, your philosophy in that area?
Yep, that's a good. First of all, what I find is a lot of customers or a lot of companies think that customer success is kind of the non-sexy part of things. People don't even talk about it. It's your product, your sales, sometimes marketing, but no one talks about customer success. Support is kind of boring and all that, right? If I look at all great technology companies, and starting from the history of IBM, IBM's history fascinates me a lot. It was built around massive focus on customer success. And IBM built that loyalty that lasted for decades. And it's even there. It's still even there, right? Which was built around how much that you do everything to make your customer successful. And so that's the, I'm a big believer in that. And so I set the rule from, very early on when we were 8, 10 people, we were starting to acquire our first set of customers. The thing that we kind of set on a big wall was that our first 5 successful customers are the one that's going to get our first 100 customers. Our first 100 successful customers are going to get our first 1,000 customers. And our first 1,000 successful customers will get our first 10,000 customers. So this is how we'll build the company. So the number one value we focused on is that everyone's job in the company is customer success. If we make that happen, everything else will happen. We'll sell more. We'll continue to do well. Everything. The challenge is, how do you do it, right? You have to think of it in a very different way. The traditional model of customer success starts from how you sell. Your sales motion is, you want to sell as much upfront as you can and walk away, and then let some other organization deal with making customers successful. And the customers start to distrust your sales, all of that. So the sales process we follow is very, what we call is a very business outcome aligned, right? It's that in the sales process, what we try to understand from the customer is like, what is success for you in terms of business outcome, and we write it down. And then what we do is like we hold ourselves accountable, and it starts on the sales process. We hold ourselves accountable, and we also work closely with the customer on this. These are the business outcomes we wanted to get to. Are we getting there? And what are the reasons why we are not? So that's the first part of it. That you have to understand the outcome, that what the customer really wants to achieve, and and you understand it, you document it, and you hold yourselves accountable for it. That it's our job to deliver that to that. The second thing is organizationally how you do it, right? It's in many companies, it's you have services kind of organization, right? They are built around, you want to sell services, it's a revenue center, and then you want to generate profit, so it's a P&L line, and then the way you track your bonuses for those people are around the utilization rate of your consultants, how many people are on the bench and things like that, right? Or how many billable hours you got. Our model is like, all of that is not aligned with the customer's interest. So our bonuses for our customer success group are based on primarily the most important metric is customer adoption. That we look at, like, if our customers are adopting our product, that's when they will be successful. And so let's figure out how do we drive adoption and how do we measure it. And so we have put a lot of innovation in it. Like we have a model of tracking, like what level of adoption people are. Like, which is like how many users are using, what capabilities are they using, how many times they log in to do things, and we have we've instrumented to measure most of it automatically, right? So we'll track that, so we know that if a customer is not adopting, they're not being successful. If they're not being successful, they're not going to buy more from us. They're not going to renew when the renewal comes up. So we know those. It's very easy. It all starts with customers adopting the product. So that's all our bonuses and all are built around that. If you look at the net result, which is which something as a company we take a lot of pride in, is our Net Promoter Score. The Net Promoter Score, when you ask someone, on a scale of 1 to 10, how likely are you to recommend someone? The Net Promoter Score of enterprise software companies is very low. It's in 20s on an average. Some of the companies that we compete in, like the legacy companies, like CA, for example, is at 3. Compuware is at 7, things like that, right? So it's horrible. And if you look at in the great consumer technology companies like Apple and Amazon, they're in 70s, right? So our goal that we always set was like, we have to be in that category, that we have to be as loved by our customers as people would love Apple or Amazon, those kind of companies. So that has been a big goal for the company, all across the company. Right now our Net Promoter Score is 84.
Wow.
So I'm very proud of that we are doing better than Apple on that.
That's amazing. Thank you for sharing that with us.